First You Think is a not-for-profit ministry of the First Unitarian Church of Des Moines. Support us at ucdsm.org today.
Do you feel at home yet?
Yes, I've discovered the grocery stores I like, that floor is always under construction, that humidity here is a very real factor. And I want to just briefly say, why are we doing a question service? 10% of it is getting to know the new minister, and 90% of it is the Unitarian Universalist exercise of wondering collectively. Right? We encourage one another in our growth. And so this is a practice where whatever the question is, ask yourself the same answer. Unless you've been in Des Moines for 80 years, in which case, yes, you're feeling at home now.
Okay. What do you mean by spiritual?
Well, Thich Nhat Hanh would say that washing the dishes can be a deeply spiritual experience of just being fully present in the washing of the dishes and not yelling at the coworker that you're mad at from 2 weeks ago. So I think it is an intention more than it is a certain kind of content. So there are people who are very spiritual in fill in the blank thing that you would consider mundane, like paying the bills. And there are people that are very intentional about saying, I'm now present in this moment. And there are people who are making to-do lists about their day and stuck in a rumination about something during a wedding, right? So I think that for me, spiritual is a frame of mind. It's a frame of mind about where am I in this moment and what am I bringing to this moment? Am I present to all that is in this moment? But that's a good question for you to ponder as well. Because spiritual is a word that some people have like an allergic reaction to, right? Because it only meant a very, very narrow version of the word. I like the word numinous. Yeah.
Okay. This is a question that I expect most of us have, and it dovetails with another question that I'll sort of put together with this. How do we remember to support each other instead of turning on each other in challenging times? And the add-on is to this, someone asked a question about how to deal with close relatives who were of a different bent, and it was very painful. So how do we support each other during these challenging times?
The hardest thing about being a Unitarian Universalist is our commitment to see the inherent worth and dignity of everyone. You can probably bring to your mind's eye any number of politicians right now that you're struggling to see their worth and their spark of divinity, their elements of cosmic star stuff that make them part of this web. It is the most infuriating of our claims. It would be so much easier to have good people and bad people. And I miss that about childhood. I do. I miss good guys and bad guys. Superman was objectively good and Lex Luthor was objectively bad. Rambo was a hero and whoever he was blowing up deserved it. He blew up a lot of people. And I miss that clarity. I do think there are objectively immoral behaviors. And there are people that string together a whole lot of immoral behaviors. And I grieve that they have lost their sense of I am made of star stuff, that I have worth and dignity that is just there from the beginning. There's a trauma behind people who act in bad faith. Yeah. There's a trauma behind the wounding that people do to one another. And that doesn't mean that I have to take it, right? If that family member is abusive, part of loving yourself, this is a deep one, y'all. Part of loving yourself is knowing your healthy boundaries for this is just abuse, and I need to be away from this. But I just want to name, as I will continue to name, that claim that every one of us has inherent worth, that we are all woven together is the most difficult. What was the first part of the question?
Let me. It was.
I got a little afield of it.
How do we remember to support each other instead of turning away
Yes.
from each other?
So, yes, thank you. We're in a moment nationally that my grandchildren will study about.
Yeah.
And I think you've clocked that. And it follows a previous a pandemic that's not really done, but a pandemic that our grandkids will study.
Yeah.
Right? I studied the pandemic that I lost my great-grandfather to, right? And now my grandchildren will study the pandemic that we clawed our way through and lost many loved ones to, and then came into this national moment that will be studied, right? It's not, you're not thinking, you're not overreacting when you stress about what's going on in the world right now. And then more locally, a moment that I was going to look back on and go, that was rough. That was a rough patch we were in there. In terms of moral behavior, right? In terms of stringing together immoral actions one after another. And that produces a kind of anxiety. It produces a kind of baseline anxiety. It produces a higher blood pressure response to everything. I wouldn't call it clinically a kind of a trauma for everyone, but for some people who are very targeted, sure, it is absolutely a trauma. And so we become defensive. And our brains, which have kept us, right, which have developed over hundreds of thousands of years to make sure primary objective, don't die, right? All the spiritual, all the numinous, all the love is at the foundation of our things requires safety. You can't be seeing the inherent worth and beauty in another person when you think you are under attack. And we are often at our worst when we are at our most defensive. When we're cornered, metaphorically or physically, right? We will do just about anything. And so I think first, just naming, I'm not being gaslit here. This is actually a difficult moment that I'm in as a human being, right? This is hard. And then going, what do I need in this? And the antidote to authoritarianism is pluralism. The antidote to that isolation is community. The antidote to that sort of overwhelm is the support of one another in a place that we covenant to just bring as much love as we can. Now, because we're a group of people, we're going to people. We are going to people. And to think that the ways that we break covenant with one another is specific to Des Moines or to this congregation is a myth. Every group of people in this city, every group of people in space and time, across religions or not religions, right? Peoples. We talk about one another, we triangulate, we start fights, we do all of these things because at different moments we are carrying our own traumas, we're feeling unsafe, and that's the way we want to respond. That's the way we're taught to respond. That's the way we think we need to respond. And that's why we need a space like this to, as James Luther Adams says, practice what it means to be a human. To practice what it means to be a human, even for that hour. And when enough of us start to feel safe enough, we can have a very different response when someone comes in with their unsafe reactions, right? And we can say, you feel unsafe right now. You are upset right now. How can we help you? Instead of going, we're fighting now? Okay, right? And we do this a lot of ways. One of the things with technology is it makes our ability to fight complex. Now, instead of just walking over and punching Og because you took your stick, right? Now we can send 40 emails, right? We can start fights all kinds of ways now. But when enough of us start to covenant to be grounded and loving and, oh, if I get another email from you, I'm going to lose it. But I see your worth, and I'm going to take 5 breaths, and I'm going to come back to this in love. Then we can bring one another back. Because all of us, including me, especially me, are going to at some point say a thing we shouldn't have said, or do a thing we shouldn't have done, or fail to say or do a thing we ought to have done or said. And that's when we need one another to say, I love you too much to fight like this. What's another way around this? That's our relational covenant, right? I don't have to say it, you already wrote it, and it's beautiful. I feel like we could work on that as like an ongoing sermon for the rest of our lives, and it would be worth it. It's a human problem, I think.
A couple of connected ones. Tell us about your kids.
We have five kiddos, 23, 20, 13, 8, and 5. Okay. And 4 of them will be in Des Moines, and 1 is at school in Madison, and they are wonderful and delightful, and they are all their own selves, so I encourage you to get to know them. What's that? And one is, depending on the day, can beat me if I let them at basketball. So, is that no? Okay, we disagree. All right, that's fine. Freedom for thought there. But I encourage you to get to know them. But I love them all, and they are beautiful.
Well, the connected question is, how do you see yourself growing, helping our children's RE program?
Yeah, well, if you collected all of the books written in the last 30 years on the changing nature of religious education and faith formation, I think you could fill this room. Yeah. I think you could. Because what a lot of us remember, if you're from the baby boomer generation, right, and you remember church in the 60s, and there were 180 kids at church, right, and you came and you went and you learned your Bible stories, or you learned in UU curriculum the traditions of, right, and then in the last 25 years or so, that stopped being like the MO, like the modus operandi that like works for faith formation. And so we've already had some great conversations, and Faith is already doing great work on that. But I think a lot of times where churches struggle is they go, but it worked when I was there, right? That's how we've always done it, right? The 6 words that ruin an organization. And I don't mean that like in a negative sense, but I think that there are some congregations, particularly in our tradition, that are doing extraordinary work to reimagine our children and youth in conversation about what this looks like. We're talking about different kinds of services. We're talking about different kinds of education experiences. Also, what is the goal of being here as a kid on a Sunday? Is the goal to download content, which you can now do on a phone, which back 40 years ago, only Dick Tracy had that phone, right? So I don't know if you'll get that joke. Do you know who did? Okay, you do. Okay, good. Good, that's good. And so, and then it becomes sort of a 6th day of school that's in a different place with none of like your closest friends. So what do we want children to experience in church? Do we want belonging? Do we want knowledge? It's not an either or, but like, what is it that we're after? These are deep, deep questions, and we already have an outstanding faith formation director. But I would like to say this, and this was when you're in search, you're paying attention to this as a minister. When a congregation says, we need to be more multi-generational, we need to see more kids here, we need to see all that, but I don't want to change anything about what we're doing. And it's not unlike those, like, I really need to change this habit in my life, but I'm not going to change anything in my life. You know, like, you see how these work against one another, right? So I could say something, or you could get up here and say something, but it's really a conversation that we all have on what it would mean to change some things, right? And I don't think anything in what we're doing in this hour is broken, so I don't mean that. But thinking about and, not an either or, but an and. What could another thing look like that centers what an 8-year-old could experience in an hour?
Okay. How do you see yourself getting involved at the Iowa State House and in social racial justice causes and issues in our wider community?
Yeah, that started before I started here. But the week before I got here, I had already met with Connie Ryan from Interfaith Alliance. I've met with, now I can't remember any name when I'm looking at all of you. Capital City Pride, Wes Mullins. I met with Des Moines Pride Center. Meeting with Amos, all of these organizations that are already doing work. And then the Rainbow Faith Coalition, which is sort of a dance between Capital City Pride and Interfaith Alliance. It's ecumenical, not interfaith. So those projects are already going on, and me just meeting with them and saying, "Hi, I'm the new minister here. Put me in, coach. Where do you need me? Where do you need us to support the work that you're already doing?" One Iowa met with Max for about an hour and a half and saying, "Where can I help? This is very important to me, and I think to many of us. Right? Where can we show up for this?" So those conversations are ongoing, and they now have my number and my name and my email, and know that I can commit for me and say that I think the congregation will support a lot of the work that we're doing there. I didn't realize that you're only in state session from January to April.
Yes.
Ish.
Well,
is that right?
Yeah.
Depends. But that's part of it for me is going, well, I guess that's when I'm there. Did I get it right? Okay, good. See, I am settling in. And so one of the questions that, and this is, I don't want to turn the room very quickly here, but one of the questions that I invite the congregation to hold tenderly, what is your risk tolerance? Because I can get out there and I can say with a moral authority, this is wrong. This is wrong. This is wrong, right? And I can be very public about that, not for me, but for the cause, for our values. But we have to sort out: are you comfortable with that? Right? I don't even have to finish the sentence. Your brain's already spiraling, right? Your body is reacting to that, right? That's to our other conversation about what is safety. Because currently, as it stands, this is an unsafe situation for some of our beloveds. What's already happening makes some of our beloveds unsafe. So it's not a question of if we rock the boat, then someone will get wet. The boat is tipped underwater. Yeah. But if we rock it, we might get wet too. Okay. I thought we were going to get a pizza topping question, but I want to name that work's already going and will continue, and I'm not doing it alone. You did not call me to be your savior, right? We're doing this together. Okay.
That was it?
That's the questions.
What?
That was it for the questions.
Okay.
No, I was asking you. You said that was it.
I have a lot more.
Oh, keep it coming.
I have a lot more. Okay. No. Let's keep going. Okay.
I'll try and do a speed round. I'm looking at the clock.
Your thoughts on Carver? Is it Carver policy governance?
Carver.
Handwriting, please. On Carver policy governance.
I could give a 30-second answer or a 3-hour answer.
30 seconds.
It was all the rage 15 years ago.
Okay.
For congregations over about 300 or 400, which you were, right? The larger the system gets, the clearer you need the columns to be, right? So once you get to 500, 600, and 700 members, once we start meddling in one another's things, it's so Carver policy-based governance, the board sets the ends, the minister sets the means, okay? Hotchkiss says that only works in a very specific, we're in the policy wonk part of the conversation. Everyone's favorite hour, okay? And Carver draws two triangles where we meet over the certain things. I have my first board meeting on Tuesday. What Hotchkiss says is when you move out of Carver, don't do it during the minister's first year. They don't even know what they're moving out of yet. Okay. Last-ish one?
I'm going to, which kind of ish?
No, go ahead.
I'm asking this because I don't quite understand the question, so you'll do both. Is auger a bad thing? A-U-G-E-R.
I'm reading that as anger.
Oh!
Yeah.
Who asked that question? Auger. Is anger a bad thing?
No.
Oh dear.
No. There's a whole space in sort of UU progressive space that says like we need to reclaim righteous anger.
Yeah.
Right. I touched on it a little bit with like what's currently being passed is immoral legislation. Right. And to be like that's fine. Right. And I don't think Thich Nhat Hanh would say that's fine. Like I don't think there is anything that would say that right. But what the anger looks like is the anger Or is the anger, here I stand and I will not move from this, right? Is it a fueling? Is it an uplifting for the flourishing of all? Or is it petty, right? Because we've all done both. and only you often know if you've flipped from one to the other. Okay, last one.
I swear that was auger, but okay.
No, it did look, it looked like a U.
Okay. Let me see. To what higher power? This is sort of heavy. Is that okay, or do you want a light one?
No, let's go big. Let's go big or go home. Yeah.
To what higher power do you feel connected?
That is a sermon. That's my way out. I'm breathing your air. Some parts of my cells still have water in them from Lake Michigan, where I drew my water 30 days ago. And some parts of my cells have water in it from where I draw my water in Raccoon River? Yeah, thank you. And apparently a lot of nitrates, right? I am part of us. And the longer you meditate on that, the deeper that gets. Right? There's no part of me that isn't also part of something else. There are trillions of microbes doing work as part of Team Steve. They're crawling along my skin. They're working and digesting my breakfast. I don't know where me ends and they begin. Right? So the deeper I think about how interwoven we are one to the next, how there was one bang, and then all of us are just essentially the same recombination of the same things that have been stuck on this rock for 4 billion years. The harder it is for my anger to turn petty. The harder it is for me to be like, I'm me, and you're you, and I'm mad at you, right? Like it's harder for me to separate self from other. And I think you can read the Gospels that way. And I know you can read Thich Nhat Hanh that way. It's kind of one of his main points. And I think you can read Thomas Merton that way. And I think you can read a lot of things that way. So the higher power is the us. And then if you want to get beyond that, and the tree, and the car, and that building, right? That we are all interwoven and sharing the same air and sharing the same water. And I don't mean that just ecologically, but like at an atomic level. I have a good colleague who's like, I don't know if I believe in God the way people mean God, but I do believe in quantum entanglement. Yeah.